Hey guys, what's up? In this video, I want to get into 3 personality traits that are actually trauma responses. All right, so I am going to go into a short background of where these things come from and what they're rooted in, go into each of the points that I have, and then kind of steer you in a direction of where to go from here. Okay? So if you don't know me, my name is Kendall. This is Holistic Alchemy, where I like to blend the science with the spiritual. It's all mind, body, and spirit to me. All right, well, let's hop into it. That's enough about me. All right, so personality traits that give away that you went through trauma. Okay? Now, CPTSD, let's get into that, stands for Complex Post-Traumatic Stress Disorder, okay? And it is where my journey began, and trying to think. I don't want to go into like a deep rabbit hole. I'm trying to keep this 10 minutes really short. But yes, once I figured out what that was, it really changed the trajectory of my life, okay? So you might have heard of it as childhood PTSD, but in a nutshell, what it is exposure to stress over a long period of time. So it doesn't always come from childhood, but for the most part, it can. It's usually rooted in childhood. But for those of us that went through abuse, neglect, abandonment, things of those issues result in CPTSD. Now, it's different than PTSD because PTSD stems from a single event that usually happens in adulthood, not always, and then that single event causes the reactivation and flashbacks of that situation, okay? So in childhood PTSD or complex PTSD, what happens is that being exposed to stressors on a developing brain and nervous system causes it to rewire differently than someone who wasn't extended to or exposed to extended stress, okay? Try not to get too scientific, but I encourage you to go look into it. Books like The Body Keeps the Score is a really good book. Who's it by? Van der Kolk, I want to say. Who else? Re-Regulated by Anna Runkle over at the Crappy Childhood Fairy. Those are 2 really good books that really, go into what CPTSD is. And it's really a maladaptive stress response, okay? Because you had to learn how to survive, right? That's what growing up is all about. Well, when you have CPTSD, you were in survival mode while somebody else was being loved and nurtured, and they were able to build healthy, connected, stable relationships. Whenever you were growing up with CPTSD, we develop these traits that help us survive, okay? I might have to do just a whole video on just diving into what CPTSD is and what technically happens, So for example, if you're neglected and abandoned by your caregiver, the brain itself will have to make that up, right? And that's where the dissociation comes in, and it's really fascinating, but learning about it really, really helped me understand why I was the way I was. And a lot of the things that I were doing were actually things that are very common for someone who had been through the type of trauma that I had been through. Okay, so not to go too much into my story, but I went through your typical divorced parents at 2. My mother was terminally ill. She, passed away when I was 11. My dad wasn't necessarily happy about having to raise a daughter and whatnot, but anyway, that's just some of the things that I had to go through. So anyway, let's hop into what these 3 trauma responses are. Okay. Some of us have, I learned that for me, it was like my whole personality was a trauma response. And once I learned what CPTSD was and being able to work through these things, it really helped me change. Okay. Oh, and another thing I wanted to add was that CPTSD, it's damage to the nervous system, right? And then it damages the way that we socialize and we connect with our community. Okay, so that brings me to our first point. So the first personality trait or belief that really is like a giveaway that you've been through trauma is this belief that you don't belong anywhere, that you're from another planet, that, kind of some of this starseed talk. And, I always say that the truth is stranger than fiction. So maybe we're from different star seeds. There's a whole galaxy out there. Who knows? But when you really look into it, I haven't really met anybody that had a connected and grounded and supportive childhood that believes that they're from Andromeda or something. You know what I mean? Like, I don't argue with people, but I'll just say, okay. And then once you get to talk to them, you'll hear it, like from their childhood you'll see the abandonment, you'll see the neglect, you'll see the abuse. And the thing is that even if you didn't directly go through those things, a lot of my collective are in their, 30s now, 40s, and we're just realizing that we're neurodivergent, that we've been autistic this whole time, that we've been ADHD this whole time, and that in and of itself can cause some trauma, right? Isolated, didn't get the support you needed. So there's that piece as well. Okay, so I'm not going to say that I don't want to go into every single, situation, but there you go. That's something that can cause an issue too. So you grow up feeling so different from everybody, just being autistic all these years. And you're like, I'm not from here. I'm not from this place. I don't fit in with anybody. You might only fit in with the bad, I don't want to say the bad crowd, but the edgy crowd, we'll put it that way. So yes, that's a common belief. The next one is a really big one that I dealt with a lot, is hyper independence. Okay. I was really raised to not need anybody, and asking for help was very much shunned upon, right? I didn't even know that you could get help until I was like 33 years old. People kept telling me, why don't you ask somebody for help? Why don't you seek support? And when I look back at certain parts of my life, when I did ask for help, I was severely punished for that. Okay. I grew up, believing that you're not going to need no man. Don't depend on anybody. You do everything yourself. And I did. I grew up, got my own house, got my own car, didn't need nobody, didn't need anything, didn't need friends, didn't need anything. Like I was just it. And I burned out from that, right? People in connected, supported, loving communities, they depend on each other, right? I should say interdependent. Codependency isn't good either. Full dependency isn't good either. But they're able to really work together and have community, right? Have a potluck, plan a trip and go somewhere. Carpool the kids to school. I mean, simple things, right? That hyper independence really steals from you. Okay. And that hyper independence gives you this hard exterior that makes it hard for anyone to feel like they can come into your life, right? And when we're very hyper independent, we tend to have this attitude that we can't trust nobody. I don't trust anybody. And when I hear that, what's really happening is that you don't really trust yourself, okay, to be able to discern who is someone you should let into your life and who isn't. And you don't trust yourself to have boundaries with people. And you don't really know who you are and what you want. Okay. And that is the price of hyper independence. Okay. So, and the truth is that as we get older, we do need people. Okay. You know, things happen. We get sick. We get into, God forbid, we get into accidents. Companionship. I mean, like, where did we get this idea that we don't need companionship or just intimacy or any of that, right? So this idea that you don't need it, it's not for you, that's a trauma response. Okay. And that one really hurt when I found that out, because here I was thinking, you know, I've got it going on. I don't need anybody. I'm good by myself. And really, it was just that CPTSD coming in of where as a child I learned that my caregivers were not coming to help me. Okay, they weren't, for whatever reason or not. We're not blaming anybody or going over anything. I mean, anyway, but that's really what that says whenever you're just super hyper independent. Okay. And the third thing, I feel like I should end it there, but we'll tap into this a little bit, would be magical thinking. Okay. Now, this can go into, this might have, like I said, this might have to be a video in and of itself, but this idea that, just to put it under an umbrella, that like twin flames, you were meant to be with this person to teach you a lesson. You were put here to, this is your journey. This is what you signed up for. You know, what else? Spiritual, but hey, not on the camera. Hey, stop. Oh my goodness. I'm going to kick him out of my videos. But, yes. Like spiritual bypassing, where it can be like, you know, you'll have the emotional flashbacks with CPTSD where it's really hard to get past what happened to you. You might get stuck in like a freeze and whatnot. And they'll tell you that you just need to do your positive affirmations. Or, you know, the other day I heard a reader saying that pretty much everything you've done, this is all your fault. And I love accountability. I really do. Okay. So, but there is like a certain threshold. And this is why we need trauma-informed readers and Reiki healers. That's why I'm here. I mean, if you look at my channel, I have readings and all that. And that's why I feel called to come out and talk about this stuff, is because, you know, in this person was saying that, you know, you called all this forward, you asked for this, you know, these are your own thoughts, you've attracted all this. And I wanted to be like, whoa. Like I said, accountability is one thing, but you didn't call forth or sign up for your caregivers to abuse you. Okay. Shitty things just happen. Okay. And I wish that I had an explanation for it. And that's part of what happens with the brain with CPTSD, is that it does these things to be able to make sense of what happened and what's going on. But, you know, when you grow up in a, you know, like we keep saying, in a loving, connected, stable environment, you don't tend to think that this person treating you like crap is your lesson. You don't tend to think, you know, if I just keep thinking positive, maybe they'll, you know, show up. Or, you know, this is all my fault. the thoughts I've been thinking, that's another trauma response. But I mean, I'm going to keep doing a few of these, but, blaming everything on yourself. It was just easier as you were growing up to just say it was your fault, and it made the blow a lot easier usually. So some of this magical thinking tends to feed some of that CPTSD, right? And we need to be able to separate these things out. Okay? So with that said, I'm gone a little bit over, but I hope this was helpful. Okay? And I would love to get this conversation going. So please leave a comment, subscribe, because these are the things that I talk about, and I share the healing journey, and we get into it over here, right? All right, I'll leave you with that. Thank you.